Okay guys, we've got a question here to draw an ellipse. I'm not sure if you can make this out on the screen, but I'm going to read it out for you now. It's draw an ellipse with a major axis equal to 120 millimeters and a minor axis equal to 80 millimeters. And in this example, the major axis is going to be horizontal. Okay? So I'm going to just start by giving ourselves a guideline. There's our horizontal line. These are very light construction lines just at the moment. I'll fill them in heavy afterwards so you can see them. My vertical line. First piece of information I'm given is that my major axis is 120 millimeters. So I know that I can draw my major circle with a radius of 60 millimeters. Mark that off there. So with my compass, my starting point, set that to that, and I can draw in my major circle. Next piece of information I'm given is that the minor axis is 80 millimeters. So we do exactly the same thing. If I make a circle with a radius of half of the minor axis, which is 40 millimeters. Okay. So we know already that we have 4 points on our ellipse. It says here that the major axis runs horizontally, so we know that at its widest point we have a point on our ellipse. It's here and here. Now, we also know that the minor axis is 80 millimeters, this line here. I'm just going to fill in those lines in heavy. This is our major axis. We know that the ellipse will be symmetrical to that, along that axis. And we also know our minor axis runs vertically, because our minor axis always runs perpendicular to our major axis. And we know that both of those axes meet at the very center of our circles. So we have a point here and here, that's the widest point of the ellipse. We also have the narrowest 2 points of the ellipse here and here. So I'll maybe just put them in pen so as they can be seen on the camera. 4 points on the ellipse. Now, to get more points of reference, we want to subdivide this set of circles, these concentric circles. We want to subdivide them. We could subdivide them into any number we like, but for simplicity and because we have the square here, we're going to divide it into 12 even segments. So we can draw these lines in. Notice when I'm drawing lines and I want them to pass through the center point, I get the point of my pencil right into the center point that's been left by the compass. I gently run the square right up to that point, and then I can draw in this chord here, this line going through the center point. So again, find our center point, slide our square to it, strike our line. We now have divided each quarter into 3, or the whole into 12. So, going back to our original rules, we know that this is the minor axis, this is the major axis, and what we said was, where each of these lines strikes the major circle, we can draw a line parallel to the minor axis. In other words, we can take each one of these points here and draw a line parallel to this minor axis. So we'll go ahead and infill all of them. You'll notice too, lads, that as I'm drawing these, each one above will be aligned with the ones below, so you can save a bit of time moving around your drawing board if, when you've got it in the correct position, you draw the top and bottom line. Right, so we have a series of lines drawn parallel to the minor axis. They begin where they strike the major circle. The second part of our rule, the golden rule that we're going to be learning, where each of these lines strikes the minor circle, it's the opposite, we now draw a line parallel to the major axis. So I find those points and draw in those lines. Again, these are going to be aligned as we come down the drawing. They're going to be symmetrical. Find the point. We now have, let's set the t-square aside, we're done with that. We now have 12 points. We had 4, we now have 12 points on our ellipse. Draw them in clear enough so as the camera can pick it up. When you're drawing this on your own boards, you can keep these points very fine so that they don't upset the drawing. Now we have 12 points on our ellipse. We now return to our hand sketching skills to infill between them. You can start at any point at all. I'm going to start here at the bottom, and I'm going to very carefully try to put in a continuous curve. At no point should this line flatten out or be a straight line. Okay, it has to gently curve the whole way around the shape. And it'll be meeting with each one of these points in turn. Tip for doing that, lads, as you're leaving one point, keep on glancing at the next point you're aiming for, and your hand will follow it. Sketching in my shape. Again, we don't have to take it continuously. Go whatever way is comfortable and that you're not giving yourself a blind spot on the drawing. And sketch that in. Make sure it meets at all the points. We're back at the start again. So we have now generated our ellipse. All that's left to do is to fill in that line. You can do this in pencil again. If you've got a HB or even a H pencil, will do this line. You can follow your pencil line that you've already made to complete the ellipse. I'm moving around my drawing board here because I can't move it. And in this final line we're trying to keep a continuous, unbroken line, so we're trying not to sketch over it. Goes back to our freehand sketching skills, guys. It's all a matter of practice. continue the line right back to the beginning. So we have our ellipse. I'm just going to label this drawing before I finish up. You don't have to do this, but as a reminder, list out my N. That's my minor axis. It's my major axis. And that's how we construct that ellipse.